Right. Well, I can't. Where is this? See if I can do. Sorry, everyone. Just trying to figure out how to figure out why the slides did this. Oh my goodness. We may just have to proceed. What's so funny is I finally did it at work with Adobe Acrobat, which is like the way to do it. English. There we go. No? All right. Well, I'm sorry about this, ladies, but we'll have some dual slides tonight. All right. Katie, whenever you are ready.
Sure. The time is now 6 p.m. and I am calling to order the Mission Hill Triangle Architectural Conservation District Commission May 1st, 2025 public hearing. Commissioners present are myself, Ellen Moore, Patricia Erados, and I think that's all that's here today.
Correct.
Excellent. Today, the commission will be holding a public hearing to review applications. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, extending the suit and suspension of these provisions until June 30th, 2027, we are conducting this meeting online. To ensure public access to the deliberations of the South End, but we'll go Mission Hill Landmark District Commission, the public may access this call through telephone and video conferencing. This hearing is being recorded. All further conversations between commissioners should be audible to the public in attendance until the hearing has adjourned. Are there any media or elected officials currently present? If so, please raise your hand using the Zoom meeting platform and state your name, title, and affiliation.
Oh, hi. It's Allison Fultonus with the Fenway News. Thanks, Katie.
Hi, Allison. Members of the public will have opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. We will repeat these instructions throughout the hearing. Tonight's agenda, we have design review, ratification of the 8/22/24 and 1/2/25 meeting minutes, staff updates, and adjournment. First up, design review for 134 Smith Street.
Can you see the
description? Yeah. Proposed work, 2-story addition, approximately 64 feet -7 by 7 inches, 64 feet 7 inches by 26 feet 4 inches to an existing 1-story commercial building, restaurant / tavern.
I'm in my meeting on Zoom.
Oh, okay. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
All right, and then I should have given you guys both permission to speak. And Louis, you guys are welcome also to share your screen if that's easier for you. If not, just let me know when you're ready for the next set of slides. And my apologies, I don't know why it saved it both 2 pieces next to each other. But anyways, let me know how you guys want to proceed.
Very good. Thank you, Rachel. Good evening to all the commissioners and to all the members. My name is Luis Santana. I am the consulting engineer for this project. And I have Peter Vanko with us, which is our consulting architect for the historical portion of the building. Now, I just want to give you a very brief history on this. This has been going on for almost, we are in the 3rd year with this project. We finally got approval from the Zoning Board of Appeals in June of 2024, last year. And we met with the staff, the BLC staff, in more than one occasion, to say the least. And with their guidance, we were developing a set of plans that were basically directed towards restoration. Basically, restore the existing facade as previously existed. However, during the development of those plans, the building sustained a fire, and that was last summer. And extensive damage, the building sustained extensive damage, structural damage, and to the facade as well. And so that completely changed our approach. And after that, we met recently with the staff and also engaged Peter Franco Studio to give us some guidance and help us with the what we hope will be the final product. And as you know, this project is for a two-story addition over the existing footprint for the most part. We are proposing 6 units, 2 studios on the first floor, and 2 units on the second and 2 units on the third floor. The building will match the height of the existing row houses on Worthington Street, and the existing restaurant will be significantly reduced to about 450 square feet on the first floor. So that is the scope of the project. I also added a letter from our structural engineer that I received today. So I apologize for that. I don't know if it was added to the presentation or not, but I know that Rachel has it available for the commissioners to see. And Peter Franco, our architect, will elaborate in great detail about our proposed construction. It's noted, I just want to note that we did some research on the history of this building, and we discovered 3 applications pertaining to the construction and the change of use, the most recent change of use of it. And there is an application in the system from 1898, which is to build a small building. It doesn't match the existing footprint. It's about 20 by 26. And I believe it was intended for a storage of old lumber. And then in 1926, there is another application, and there is no record of what happened to that smaller building. In 1926, there is an application to build what exists today. The description of it matches exactly what we have today in terms of dimensions. And it was intended for 4 stores. In 1961, they changed the occupancy from 4 stores to 1 tavern and 1 store. And over the years, the store disappeared, and the current use until the fire last year remained as a restaurant or tavern. So with this, I conclude my introduction, and Peter will take over from this point. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Luis. Good evening, everyone. Nice to see everyone on this beautiful May 1st. Rachel, thank you so much for your help and guidance as we've been proceeding here. We had a great meeting with you, and I think maybe the most helpful historical image that we have, and really, I think setting the tone and acting as our muse for this entire project, is really this photo from the 1950s, where we are seeing the building approximately, what would that be, 25, maybe 30 years after it had been originally constructed there in the 20s. And we really see it in its former glory. We see a building that has beautiful ornamentation along the parapet. We see a building also that had representative of those 4 storefronts, very glass dominant, beautifully centered entrances. Clearly this was a retail center here on this corner. Now, what's very interesting about this is, Rachel, maybe you can remind me of the terminology here, but essentially this building, for some reason, has, what was its determination from the early 80s report?
Are you talking about how it is a building that is allowed to have modifications to it?
Yeah, what was, from the I actually have an excerpt of it, but I can't recall what the determination was that they had said it was either, well, rather than fumbling around for it, essentially the building, it doesn't look like anything else around it, for sure. It's unique.
Non-conforming.
Yeah, non-conforming is a good word.
Yeah, it's definitely non-conforming, and it's certainly different. So
I think, Peter, I'm sorry to interrupt. You're referring to a later contemporary intrusion. I think that's what
thank you so much. And that is exactly right. That is the terminology precisely I was looking for. Yeah, it's a contemporary, do you say obtrusion? I forget the term, but it essentially, that probably came as it was modified into a tavern and united under one business front, and obviously altered at that point. I actually might share my screen if that's okay, Rachel. We can just run through.
Totally.
I will. Oh, place current share. Okay, everybody can hopefully see my screen okay?
Mhm.
Okay, great. So with the storefronts, we get an image here, only one of the bays, but essentially we had 4 of these. And along each column or pilaster location, we had a decoration also that would have been at the top of the parapet. The permit description says that this is cast stone, and I'll show that in greater detail here in a moment. I'm not sure if that really went forward that way. It appears to me to be hollow terracotta units, but possibly they do have some stone characteristic that's cast. I believe that they're glazed though. And essentially those the idea was that those cast elements really formed a parapet here with a lot of dental work and beautiful ornamentation. There is some indentation inside of that. There would have been elements seen on top, little simulated floral elements that would have been rhythmically placed along the top. And then we had these pilaster elements, and in between the pilaster elements would have been those storefronts. Now, obviously those would have been separated at one point in time. And here the corner, which would have been the corner entry, certainly for the businesses, would have been dominant. Probably would have had a lot more glass. Today, though, what we see in front of us is that it was united and infilled with, there's no longer, entrances for people to permeate through the building. It became much more solid. And then unfortunately, this is the current state of the building, which is currently burnt out and greatly damaged from the fire. Is everyone familiar with the fire that occurred there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I
Right.
have a short news clip that I could play if you were not, but it's such a shame because I think it takes this building from a place that we could have worked with what was there to fire, unfortunately, had such a damaging effect on the structure that is holding and backing up all of the unit masonry elements that are on the facade, but also probably damaged, we haven't tested it, but probably damaged the units beyond restorative potential. So we can look through here. We also see just a lot of damage over time. There are stress fractures. Oh, I wanted to zoom. My apologies for any jumping around. Stress fractures and things that appear to us to be probably, it is at the corner pre-fire. Nonetheless, very, very, very hard to fix. It's one of those things that we would actually be looking for a replacement here. Couple that with, unfortunately, one of the most beautiful aspects of that cast stone facade, which unfortunately the ornamentation above parapet does not exist today, but was right centered in that long facade. And you can just see through charring and really the fire was centered here in this area. All of the glazing on these elements was completely burnt off. So we can see that centered area right here. That was really where that was the epicenter of the fire. So it's highly unfortunate because what previously could have probably been worked with to now have to work with all these elements and repair them, it probably becomes cost prohibitive. Just showing all of the sides as we get around. This is a little alley side. It shows that the terracotta or decorative facade drops off. Same as we get out onto Smith Street. So what we would like to propose to you tonight, hopefully you have a good understanding of the existing building as it currently is that of course we have really 4 categories of work that we can do. You know, similar, really coming from National Park Service, we have that rehabilitation, restoration, full reconstruction, and preservation of existing elements. We believe that what is eligible for rehabilitation is everything from ground level up to approximately 11 feet above the sidewalk. And I'm going to call that datum moving forward here, top of pilaster. In that, I'd like to clean the existing brick masonry, remove any paint that is currently coating any element, either with heat or sandblast. We just want to, probably would not use pressurized water. And we remove that from all historical elements and masonry or metallic. And we paint all those historical elements again, just to get them all to one consistent color. And the goal is to match that 1950s photograph, something with a little bit of a warmer limestone. Probably that's most likely what it appears in that photograph. That would be a good neutral color that would match everything. From that 11-foot datum, that top of pilaster up, we'd actually be looking to demolish that, reconstruct it with either new cast terracotta elements or GFRC, whichever one we could possibly use. Depends upon economics to some degree, but I see them as both being very equal. GFRC is lighter and easier and faster. Terracotta is done fairly locally. We can source all of the terracotta from a company in Buffalo. They've already taken a look at it and they feel, I have a GFRC company and a terracotta company. Both are confident that they can essentially recreate much of what we see here. Secondarily, below that 11-foot datum, we would also seek to restore the storefronts that we see in that 1950s photograph. Something you can see here, this was altered so that there's an asymmetric opening. Similarly to the left in that other bay, asymmetric, we'd be looking to center our entrances and doors and restore something more to what we see in the 1950s photograph. We would then, all of our windows and doors and elements like that would be painted in black, something that they would either come from a factory coating or be field painted. Conceptually, the idea here is that we would like to simulate probably a steel or industrial window, something that has a small sight line. We definitely would not want to do something chunky. It's not going to be a plastic window or a vinyl window of any sort. And that we would then do a shiplap with a subtle joint that's really going to essentially make our more solid areas go away. And you'll see that in the storefronts in a moment. We have very, very little of this, but it is present. So in the areas that we want to reconstruct with most likely, I would prefer GFRC, we would have that colored so they would match the elements below and possibly be coated in exactly the same requisite gray. That way everything will really match. We won't get any variation between what was existing and restored and then what is absolutely new and reconstructed. Now, what is above that is going to be a new addition. We are doing 2 stories that will be residential. We are proposing that we do a glazed brick that would match and play very, very nicely with that requisite gray. We think that that would combined with a black grout would make a really sharp facade. Black windows, it would just feel like it's always been there. So as we bring that all together, that first floor being that requisite gray with black elements, levels 2 and 3, they lighten up and they get a little bit richer. And there is a parapet also at the top that would return back to that requisite gray. And we just think here, it's just a really rich, warm, fun palette that is historically correct, but at the same time, just will feel very, very rich. So our comparative drawings here, as we currently stand, we are proposing, and don't have to digest these fully, I will be showing you a video here in just a moment. So this will be the first pass. There's our base. It is being reconstructed. The addition up above is going to have some bays that actually hang out. They will correspond to those bays that are below. So they actually will work together and in tandem with actually making those entrances a little more meaningful than they might have been before. We are aligning our second and third floors with the row houses that are running down Smith Street, or rather up Smith Street to our north. And those will just be more or less a massing alignment that will make it feel a little bit better versus projecting all the way out, and which we were not approved for. I believe that the in the zoning process, our massing really got pushed back to its current phase. I'll show you some of the other comparative drawings. Here we are again from the roof. You can see that row house block as we move north. It does not align with both elevations here, so we're setting ours back, and you can see our bays overhanging those entrances. But the intention, of course, being that the main idea of the existing very valuable historic building is maintained. Moving around to completely the opposite side, really our alley entrance here. There was a tavern called the Squealing Pig that was occupying the prior building. The idea is that they will continue to occupy a portion of the new building, and they would take this corner, and we'll show you what that layout looks like here in a moment, but essentially it will be a coffee bar. It's going to have much less of a bar and tavern function and more of a short order, stop in and grab some food type of thing. So we really like this corner, as it becomes a little bit more grand. It's restored to this corner probably becomes a little bit more of a signage potential. Obviously, the blanker the facade, the harder it is to treat, but we think we can bring it back with some stucco and some paint and make it really rich and wonderful and light that piece. But everything above that is also, you can see that glazed brick, and it all really plays beautifully together in our opinion. And just zooming in a little bit again on that 1950s photograph, you can see it's really a tripartite subdivision, and we're creating that again in each of our historic bays. However, our new addition bumps out above each entry. Look how beautifully it works symmetrically, and it really will announce these entries. And then where this dips in and we recess, we actually will be recreating the decorative elements that we see here. So our goal is this coat of arms and floral element. Our terracotta folks or the GFRC folks, they will come up with a shop drawing that shows what that element looks like. So I'm sure, and I would love to share as a component of our hopeful approval this evening, is that we at the same time have an opportunity to demonstrate our shop drawings to you. They're not available at this time, of course. We want to make sure that we have approval before we move forward, but we'd like to share those with you all as we progress those at the same time. So here we are pulling back a little bit more. You can see our full length facade. We think it works really well. Okay, and as mentioned, I'm going to just do a quick video share here so that you can see. All right, we had this excerpt. And there we go. So with that, essentially that's conclusion of the presentation on my part. Very eager to get your thoughts.
Katie, my hand is up.
Pardon me, Ellen, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I have to say, this is the third or fourth iteration I have seen of the proposed addition, and you have knocked it out of the ballpark. It's beautiful. The design is beautiful. The materials are beautiful. The palette is beautiful. I dreaded coming to this meeting, and now I'm so happy. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I do have a couple of questions. I'm just curious. I see that the Squealing Pig or some restaurant is going to be at the first position, the rightmost position next to the alley. There's the two other entrances and the corner entrances, and it was mentioned that there were going to be two studios on the first level. Are those going to be direct entrance into the studio residential units, or are there going to be more retail spaces? What are those doorways actually going to do?
Yeah, Ellen, that's a great question. Well, thank you so much for those accolades, and I agree, it's absolutely gorgeous. I love where it is too. But great questions. I think it's always good to kind of plan for the future, and maybe restoring this building back to having four main entrances really important. Even if today, we have studios on the ground floor, who knows what tomorrow will bring. But you're entirely correct. The two rightmost, so we'll say, I'm sorry, the two leftmost, so the corner entry, that indeed is direct to unit. And so there you have a direct pathway right into a residential unit that is a studio. The same with the bay to the right of that is direct to unit. And not that they'll always be residential. There may be someday that they are converted to something else, but for the time being, that's correct. They would have a direct line of access. So, and it's almost, I think there's almost a story that can be told here that maybe this building was converted, that those were original, and yes, it converted to residential, but they won't feel out of the ordinary or forced. That's
And
our
then
hope, at least.
the third doorway is the entrance to the upper units, is that right?
That's correct. Yes, that's correct.
And then I love the parapet, the additional parapet on the top. But I'm just wondering, we in the neighborhood, the commissioners that you're dealing with tonight actually live in the neighborhood. That's why we're so familiar with the building and the fire
Right.
and everything. And we hate roof decks because of, we have a lot of young, mostly students who are sometimes very noisy. So is that planned to be a roof deck on the top?
There's no access that I'm aware of at this time. Is that correct, Luis?
Wonderful. Thank you.
Well, if I may, through the zoning board of appeal process, we were approved for 2 private roof decks for the upper units. But that being said, that we had opposition during the abutters meeting on the roof decks for the same reason that the commissioner just mentioned. So gradually they've been left out. And,
Oh, Louise, thank you.
Good.
yeah,
Thank
there
you,
will-
thank
There will
you.
be access to the roof, but it will be what is required per code. It will be a hatch and it will be not visible from anywhere.
Good.
Well, Louise, I can't tell you how gorgeous this is. It's really, I've seen a lot of infill buildings, and I've seen a lot of conversions of residential buildings into commercial spaces, but this is really remarkably well done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what Ellen is saying in that I love it. I think that it is the eye on restoration and the historical building is something I'm so delighted to see. I was so delighted to see that inspiration is being pulled from that 1950s picture, which I am quite familiar with, a whole bunch of pictures from that series, including that one hanging in the front hallway of my building. And, I really appreciate how much thought has been put into this and into the scale and into the style.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I agree. This is Pat. I don't think I'm showing up on the screen, but it looks extremely nice. It will be very nice to have it there, especially with the horrible looking thing that's there now. It actually, this is probably out of line. It makes the building next to it look a little better, which has always been one of the uglies. I've loved the people that have lived there and owned it, but this thing kind of elevates it a little bit.
Thank you, Pat.
You're welcome.
I'm not sure if anybody else has any comments.
I am just curious about the paint. I'm not familiar with this GFRC material. I'm always, I tend to think that painting any kind of masonry is not a good idea. So, because it prevents moisture from naturally leaving the material once it gets in. So while I love the paint palette, and I think it's a really good choice, I'm just curious, is that going to cause some kind of maintenance problem with the building?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So below the parapet, we'll call that 11-foot datum line. Below that parapet is really where we're looking to more or less repaint. Unfortunately, it already has been painted. That's the downside. And I agree with you 100%. Once you paint it, you kind of go down a path of no return. Yeah, it doesn't breathe. It doesn't do all the things that masonry really wants to do. You know, and so I would much rather use a lime-based stain. However, I'm not sure how it will adhere or how it would turn out on the terracotta. That's my only big question. And also making the color look uniform on the terracotta, eh, that's the $1 million question. It really is. Yeah, because it's unfortunate it ever got painted in the first place, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And this GFRC, is that more amenable to paint? I don't really know anything about that material.
Yeah, it really is. So essentially it's a cast concrete with a fiberglass backing. So they tend to put the fiberglass near the face of the concrete and interior, but it's really meant to hold up in cold weather climates like this to, you know, all the abuse that we get here in New England. But the intention is that it's so reinforced and it actually breathes on the backside because it's hollow. So the GFRC will be about an inch thick in total.
But it's going to be a choice of terracotta or GFRC.
That is correct. That is correct. I mean, I'd really like to lean toward terracotta, but GFRC may be easier to structure since we're, especially with our bays as we're hanging out a little bit, it's a little harder with the terracotta sometimes to accomplish that without, you know, a lot of times the bays that we would see done in terracotta 100 years ago, they would have had 3 or 4 feet to corbel out and build that out over time, whereas we are hanging straight out. But that we have a steel roof here. That is an interesting part. So we have steel already in the building. We were anticipating sticking steel out to make those bays. It may be simple to do it either way. I just don't know what the answer is out honestly right now. But both will end up giving you the same results visually.
Right. I'm just worried about, you know, longevity of the materials and you know, cost of maintenance for whoever winds up being the owner of this property.
Yeah. Well said. And yeah, I share that. Yeah, I'd like to see it last way more than 100 years this next time.
Oh, good. I'll be dead by then. No,
Yeah, right.
but I'm going to enjoy it until then.
But you know, I would love for this to last a lot longer than 100 years. And I am kind of shocked at why it didn't. Maybe it was understructured. I mean, some of the stress fractures that we see, particularly at the corner, that does not look related to the fire. It really appears to me that those fractures probably happened over time. The good possibility it was understructured from behind, it had settlement, it had movement, something cracked those. So.
Well, it's lovely.
Who knows? Wow. Well, thank you so much. I think answer your question definitively, I would love to have the latitude of GFRC or terracotta with the caveat that I would love to represent our shop drawings to you when we get to that point and just demonstrate what the material is. Show that we are hopefully putting in a material that's not going to create a maintenance hazard or a maintenance issue rather, that really will be able to work long term.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I want to thank the team too for working so closely with the Landmark staff.
Yeah.
Because yeah, you've really met and exceeded our expectations here.
Wow. Well, thank you. Hey, Rachel, thank you so much for your help.
Yeah, I just want to add that Rachel and Chelsea, they've been instrumental on getting to this point. Without them, this would not be possible. They were very patient throughout all this long month until we accomplished this. So
We
you.
love them, and Chelsea's an amazing person, isn't she? Yeah.
Thank you so much for your help. And of course, Peter, bringing Peter on board was crucial in order to accomplish this. So thank you, Peter, for your participation.
Awesome. And so commissioners, Peter mentioned that he wasn't sure whether he wanted to go the terracotta or the GFRC route. So you guys, if you wanted to, in your motion, could make a proviso that they come back with those two options, and you guys can make a final decision on that at that point. So just something to keep in mind.
Thank you, Rachel.
Should we read the staff recommendations?
Yep. Yeah. You guys are ready. I can read it.
Yes, please.
Right. So 134 Smith Street, after completing an advisory review back in January of 2023, the project at 134 Smith Street is returning for design review. The proposed project is reviewed under Section O, Commercial Properties, and meets the four stated areas of review as follows. Height, the proposed design does not exceed the top roof line of the abutting structures within the district. Land coverage and setback, the proposed design conforms to the land coverage and setback of the abutting structures in the district because the second story is pushed back to be in line with the row houses along Worthington Street. Overall materials, staff finds the proposed brick for the addition harmonizes with the materials of the abutting structures in the district. Further, the project proposes to restore many of the decorative architectural elements at the first story that are in disrepair. Massing, staff finds that the massing remains within the existing footprint of the building at the first story and is reduced at the upper stories to be more in line, again, with the row houses abutting the structure along Worthington Street. So as such, we recommend approval with the following provisos. Drawings are shared with staff when at the 75% or greater completion mark. An on-site materials mock-up is scheduled with staff to review all materials for the project. A full reconstruction plan is remanded to staff for final review, explaining how the design of the existing architraves, frieze, dentils, cornices, and parapet will be copied and reconstructed in cast stone, fully describing all of the materials and techniques. This is the proviso where you guys could modify it and say, and bring this back to the commission instead of remanding it to staff. And then cut sheets or shop drawings for all the windows and doors are remanded to staff for final review.
Well, other commissioners, I don't know how you feel. I mean, I'd be more than happy to see this again. On the other hand, it can slow a project down if they have to come back before the commission. And I also trust the staff to make the final determination about the materials. So I personally don't feel the need for the proviso, except that I'd be curious to see it again myself. What do you think, Pat and Katie?
I'm inclined to agree. Like I'm curious. I will admit not being an expert on these materials and how they weather, but it sounds like this is being approached very thoughtfully, which I appreciate. And but I also don't want to have a hand in slowing down this process or when it's already looking to gain some momentum.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I suspect that the folks designing this know more about the materials than we'll ever know, and would trust them to just figure out which works best for longevity, paint duration, and all the rest of it. And really would hate to slow things down, especially we can be tight on quorum, and I would not like the idea of saying, oh, you're going to get stalled simply because we asked you to come back. So, and then we're not here. So.
So well, one of the commissioners, you guys can make a motion, and then after the motion, we can do public comment if you feel you are ready for that step.
Should the motion just be to accept the staff recommendations?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to word it.
Yeah, you can. So the staff recommended approval with provisos. And so you can say, I make a motion to accept the project with the provisos as stated in the staff comment. If
Okay.
you would like.
I move that we accept the design with including the provisos that the staff recommended.
Second,
All in favor? Aye.
aye.
Oh, wait, we got to do staff comment or public comment. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Before we vote. Yeah, it's okay. We can vote again after public comment.
Members of the public will now have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on the application and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can press *9 to raise your hand, or you can send questions to staff via email at missionhillacdc@boston.gov.
Oh, hi, it's Allison Poltonis, and I did have a couple questions, if that's okay. Because I'm probably not as familiar with the building as everyone else on the call. Are you sharing a party wall with the building on Worthington? I couldn't tell from the plan.
Yes, we are sharing a party wall.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that has to be built, or I'm assuming that, yeah.
They're independent from one another right now. I believe that I'm certain of their wall, which is currently 3 stories high, has a clear shot to foundations all the way down to the basement. And then our side of that is built within that. Fortunately, there's no affect to that party wall. So that party wall will remain fully intact. All of our construction will be on our side of the property line there, presuming the property line is more or less to the face of the brick that we see today. So everything that we do will be inside of that and built off of it.
Okay, that's really interesting. And will there be an elevator in the building? Do you have to do that?
There is no elevator within the building.
Okay, okay. And one more question. The historic photo, that was from City Archives. I think I've seen it before too, but I couldn't remember the source.
Yes, that's correct. I see, Katie, you were nodding your head. I believe that's from City Archives. Yes.
Right,
There's a
right.
really great publicly available city archives of the neighborhood around the time the urban renewal was done, 1958 to early 60s, and it has a lot of really interesting shots of us here in the Mission Hill district and what surrounded us previously.
Sure. I think I've seen some of those for sure. So the decision between is it GRC? I don't know what the initials stand for. What is?
Yes, the acronym is GFRC, and it's glass fiber reinforced concrete.
Okay. And so that decision is primarily going to be based on cost. Is that right? Or did you get an estimate for the terracotta already, or?
We have not gotten an estimate for it, and it really depends on the project and really what's available in that region and at that time and the complication of it. So I'm not really sure which one will end up being, from an economics perspective, which one will be better. They're both comparable, and certainly at the end of the day, it would be hard to tell the difference between the two of them from a visual standpoint.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thanks, Katie. I think that's all for my questions.
Thanks, Allison.
Right. I'm not seeing any other raised hands, and we did not receive any written public comment.
So do we do the vote again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we'll do an official vote. Thank you.
Okay, move to accept the staff comments and including provisos.
Do you need a second?
Second.
I second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Okay.
Motion passes.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Peter and Louise, I'll be in touch with your letter, and then feel free to reach out as you guys progress. And if at any point we need to come back to the commission, we can make that happen.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
We'll do it. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Great. And then I know I sent them today, so if you guys didn't get a chance to read them, that's fine, and we can do it at another meeting. But I have the ratification of the minutes for last August and January.
Do you need separate motions or can we ratify them together?
You can ratify them together. That's
Okay,
fine.
I move that we ratify the August and January minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
And I did
Awesome.
read them. They were very nicely done.
Yeah, the January ones were, admin only. So that was yeah, so unfortunately I don't have any staff updates. I am trying to figure out, I let Joe know that we lost a commissioner and I wasn't made aware of it. And so he reached out to our director, and hopefully she'll be reaching out to just give more insight into that, because we don't really know, have any official word as to what's happening. So
Well, we don't have official word either, but thanks to the wonder of Allison Pultness, who goes to so many public meetings, we know that Gary Walling, Cindy's husband, has been selected as a new commissioner. And Pat and I were reconfirmed. But I have gotten no official notice from the city. I only know because Allison was at the meeting where this took place.
interesting. Okay.
I haven't heard anything. I did get a communication from Joe that the makeup was changing of the commission to be a majority landmark staff over community. That there would be 2 community members and 3 landmark staff people. That was the communication I received from Joe maybe a couple months ago, month and a half.
Okay, maybe he meant like BLC commission members, not staff.
Well, that's the thing. I'm not sure. I might be misstating what the role people have, but people that were not Mission Hill Triangle residents.
Got it. Okay, interesting. Okay, so I apologize, I don't have more clarity or insight into what is going on, but I do appreciate all of you showing up today and looking at that project. I thought it was a great project.
Thank you, Rachel, and
awesome.
tell Chelsea thank you. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, what an improvement.
Really come far. And Chelsea and I we both saw the project in 2023 when it first came in, and there were all those iterations. So it was really great to see it to get to this point, and they really care about the project, which is really cool.
Yeah, and they picked the right architect.
Yes.
It's so beautiful. It's such an improvement.
Peter's been really great to work with. He was so excited. He was like, send me anything you have. And I was like, this is like the only picture. And he was like, I can work with it. So it was really great.
Yeah, wonderful.
Awesome. Well, that is sadly it for my staff updates. And if there is nothing else, we can move to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Well,
We adjourn.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time. Have a good
Yeah,
evening.
good to see everybody.
yeah, yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.